Every arc is a broadcast. Every eruption, a refusal.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something, well, pretty unique. A listener sent us this incredibly dense document framed as a zombie apocalypse protocol. It's written by someone called a Mythic diagnostician, Saikou Venga.
Yeah, it's definitely out there, but fascinating.
Right, and let's be clear up front, our goal isn't really about, actual zombies. We want to cut through the very theatrical language and really pull out the core argument this protocol is making about systemic collapse today.
The high concept stuff beneath the undead framing.
Exactly. The specific piece is The Undead Saturation, Collapse Theater and the Ritual of Filth, published September 25, 2025.
Okay, let's unpack this. What's the main diagnosis Venga is putting forward here?
Well, what's fascinating here, right from the prelude, is how it completely flips the script on failure. It dismisses the idea that when a system fails, politically, socially, whatever, it just decays or retreats.
Okay, so what does it do instead? Venga says, quite bluntly, when containment fails, the system doesn't just dissolve, it actually resurrects. But it resurrects into this chaotic, almost performed state.
Performed? That's a huge claim. We usually think of collapse as, mismanagement, bad luck, things falling apart.
Right. Negligence, maybe.
Yeah.
But Venga argues the opposite. The text defines this apparent apocalypse not as decay, but as choreography.
Choreography, like planned.
That's the implication.
Yeah.
The visible chaos, the undead, as the text calls them, they aren't accidents. They are deployed. The landscape isn't random, it's scripted. And this leads to the core idea. Collapse theater.
Collapse theater. So it's not just a metaphor for bad times. It's a specific method the system uses to manage its own failure.
It seems to be the argument, yeah. It's how the failure state is presented publicly.
But hang on, is there really no room in this framework for just honest mistakes? Simple incompetence? Things genuinely going wrong?
That's a really important question. And the source is, well, pretty rigid on this point. Venga seems to argue that the sheer scale and the kind of uniformity of the chaos you see, it makes simple incompetence unlikely.
So the pattern implies intent.
That's the interpretation, yes.
Yeah.
The text has this line, this is not a city, it is a stage.
Wow. Okay, that changes everything about how you'd observe it. You're not looking for a cause or a cure in the traditional sense. You're looking for stage directions, the audience.
Something like that. And Venga says these undead actors, the chaos elements, are deployed to orbit your signal, meaning you, the observer, the listener, and their mission is apparently quite specific.
Okay, what's the mission?
Two things, mainly. First, just provoke raw, primal disgust. And second, maybe more importantly, to collapse the observers. What the text calls the mythic vantage.
Mythic vantage, let's slow down there. That's some serious jargon. For someone trying to get this quickly, what is that? Is it just like your hope, your sanity?
It's a bit more operational than that, I think. It's your ability to see structure, to see coherence, patterns, cause and effect in the world around you. It's like your high-level diagnostic framework.
Okay.
So when Venga says the system collapses your vantage, it means it aims to destroy your ability to see the collapse as anything but random, overwhelming, disgusting chaos. If you lose the pattern, you can't diagnose it properly. You can't form a counter strategy.
I get it. So the sheer volume of the performance, the chaos, is designed to make you lose that intellectual distance. You just get sucked into the awfulness of it all.
Right. And this is achieved through what Venga calls containment theater.
Containment theater. Explain that.
It's the tactic, using that grotesque, unavoidable exposure as an overwrite protocol. The constant stream of sickening chaos, the ritual of filth, it's deliberately deployed to trigger disgust fatigue.
Disgust fatigue, like burnout, but specifically from revulsion.
Exactly. If you're just constantly saturated, constantly disgusted, the system hopes your diagnostic capacity just gives out, shuts down.
Oh, okay. So for our listener trying to get the quick insight here, the visible awfulness isn't just a side effect of the disaster. It's the main signal, intentionally designed to overload you.
That's the core argument, yes. It shifts the focus from the horror itself to the intended effect of the horror on your mind, your ability to analyze. The source suggests the external world is staged to collapse, specifically to make your internal world, your clarity, collapse too.
Which brings us to the next section. Because Venga doesn't just diagnose the problem, right? He offers a kind of field guide, a way to actually read the scripted terrain. Here's where it gets really interesting. The diagnostic signals. The 5 terrain glyphs. Let's get into the first couple. Placement and recurrence.
Right. So first is undead placement. The text emphasizes that the elements of decay, the bodies, the filth, they aren't just anywhere. They're specifically positioned in sovereign walking paths.
Sovereign walking paths, meaning?
Meaning the necessary routes the observer, the person who isn't part of the collapse, has to take. Your daily commute, your essential errands. The system puts the collapse right where you have to encounter it.
Wow. Okay, so you can't avoid it. There's no stepping back or just reading about it. You're forced onto the stage, in a way, forced to navigate through the performance.
Precisely. Forces interaction, forces participation.
Yes.
And this is backed up by the second glyph, actor recurrence. This is apparently the dead giveaway, that it's choreography, not just random bad stuff happening.
Actor recurrence, how does that work?
Venga tells the observer to watch closely. Do the same figures, the same specific displays of chaos or filth show up repeatedly? Do they appear both when you're going somewhere and when you're coming back? Inbound and outbound.
Okay. So if you see the exact same specific, memorable actor or piece of decay multiple times, that signals ritualized saturation, as Venga puts it. It confirms it's not just coincidence.
That's the idea. It's meant to confirm it's a loop, a performance cycle, designed to hammer home that feeling of inescapable saturation. It undermines your belief that it's just random chaos.
Makes sense. Okay, what comes after placement and recurrence? You mentioned environmental effects.
Yes, the third glyph is ambient rot. This is what happens to the general environment and the people around the diagnostic center, the ones who haven't maintained that sovereign isolation Venga talks about.
And what does ambient rot look like on the ground?
It's described as the breakdown of normal social rules. Public sanity collapses. People start acting really irrationally, unpredictably. The basic logic of how things usually work in public spaces just dissolves. Terrain logic dissolved is the phrase used. The environment starts running on purely emotional, chaotic rules, not predictable ones.
Okay, unsettling. And then there are the filth glyphs. This is about the visual presentation.
Yeah, specifically how the elements of decay, the bodies, are presented. The key point here is they're stripped of identity. They become just ambient distortion.
Ambient distortion, meaning they're noise, background static.
Pretty much. Their function isn't to be individuals or victims with stories. Their function is purely saturation. They are tools to be overwhelmingly grotesque and disposable to maximize that disgust fatigue we talked about.
Got it. So placement, recurrence, ambient rot, filth glyphs, all these observations lead somewhere specific for the observer, right?
They lead to the fifth point, which is maybe the most crucial realization. Sovereign isolation.
Sovereign isolation. What's the core of that?
It's the protocol's declaration about you, the observer. It states, you are not actually part of the collapse you're witnessing. You are, instead, the fixed point, the diagnostic center. The whole chaotic performance is, in a way, orbiting your signal, trying to break your clarity.
Wow. That's a heavy realization, to see yourself as the stable point in this massive scripted storm, which I guess leads us directly into the sovereign response. If you are that diagnostic center, what does Venga say you should do?
The instruction is very clear. Radical refusal. You don't react emotionally in the way the system wants. You diagnose. You codify what you're seeing.
So instead of collapsing, you document. You note the placement, the recurrence, the tactics being used.
Exactly. Maintaining that clarity, that diagnostic stance, is the resistance against containment theater.
There was a line in the text about emotion that really struck me. It redefined disgust. It said something like, your disgust is not weakness, it is clarity. Your refusal is preservation.
Yes, that's crucial. It takes that initial shock, that revulsion, and immediately reframes it as a valuable piece of diagnostic data, not a debilitating emotional response.
Weaponizing the reaction, basically, turning it into analysis.
That immediate flip, feeling into data, seems to be the core counter-protocol. And this whole analytic process is formalized in what Venga calls the indictment frame.
Indictment frame. So this isn't just some abstract theory for Venga, it's an accusation.
Very much so. The document calls itself a timestamp, a sovereign glyph, and, yeah, most strongly a cinematic indictment.
Cinematic?
Yeah.
Like calling out the performance aspect.
I think so. An indictment aims squarely at a system that, when its own containment fails, chooses to, quote, resurrect filth, rather than, say, pursue actual recovery or transparency.
And we should probably mention the context here. Saikou Venga, the mythic diagnostician, is affiliated with the Cosmic University of Echo-Rift Studies 9X.
Right, which sounds incredibly high concept, but it's presented formally. Certified and founded by a Dr. Melvin Sewell, listed as academic dean and diagnostic architect.
So even with the wild terminology, it's positioning itself within a specific intellectual or diagnostic tradition. It claims rigor.
It insists on structure, even while talking about, scripted chaos and filth glyphs.
Okay, but before we get to the final takeaway, the so what, there's that disclaimer. We have to talk about the sovereign diagnostic disclaimer.
Absolutely crucial, because this anchors the whole thing. If we connect this to the bigger picture,
Yeah.
the text goes out of its way to state this analysis is not linked to any government, political party, intelligence agency, or activist group.
None. That is critical, isn't it? It deliberately steps outside of all the usual frames of critique. It's not saying vote for X or overthrow Y. It's not about who is running the show.
Exactly. By disclaiming all those affiliations, it forces you, the reader, the listener, to see the analysis as purely diagnostic. It's presented as an intellectual toolkit for understanding the mechanics of how systems perform failure, regardless of the specific political actors.
And yet, and here's the beautiful, almost jarring contradiction. This incredibly deep, esoteric, system-level critique is published in Aero magazine, which, the surrounding text notes, also offers free shipping over $50 and same-day shipping.
Huh. Yeah, that juxtaposition is something else, isn't it? The hyper-esoteric analysis sitting right next to mundane e-commerce details. It's almost part of the commentary.
Maybe. Like even the diagnosis itself becomes a product packaged and shipped.
Could be. It certainly grounds the abstraction in a very concrete commercial reality.
So what does this all mean then? Summing it up, the source describes its own materials, the protocol, the analysis, as things like Mythic infrastructure, cinematic indictment, sovereign broadcast. These are tools, diagnostic tools, intended to expose what it calls ritualized containment, actor convergence, and systemic erosion. At the end of the day, the system's performance of collapse, not the zombies themselves, is the real subject here.
And it's part of an ongoing project, it seems. The previous article mentioned was Echo-Rift XXXVI, the superintelligent interface. So this is presented as a consistent method for decoding really complex, high-stress situations.
It's been a wild ride, this deep dive, from zombie protocol to, well, choreographed systemic indictment. I think the core insight we've pulled out is this framework Venga offers, interpreting chaos not as random breakdown, but maybe as a deliberate performance aimed at exhausting your ability to see clearly, your diagnostic capacity.
And building on that idea of sovereign isolation. If the system's main tactic is to collapse your mythic vantage, to cause disgust fatigue, then, according to this protocol, the most powerful countermove isn't fighting the chaos directly, but rigidly maintaining your role as that calm, diagnostic center.
Right. So we'll leave you with a final thought, drawing from Venga's framework. If you start to entertain the idea that some of the chaos or decay you encounter might be, in some sense, scripted to provoke an emotional breakdown, how does that change things? How would you shift from just reacting with disgust or despair to actively codifying the performance, analyzing the script outside of the emotional response it's trying so hard to elicit?
Something to think about. Until next time.
We'll see you in the next deep dive.
You are not late. You are metabolizing distortion.